my name is Abel Rosales, and welcome to my presentation. Let me introduce you to my wife, who will be the cameraman for the next 15 minutes.
Hello.
Okay, so for the next 15 minutes, I will be presenting my presentation for the University of Laverne for Management 354 course. And today it's controlling professional athletes' salaries. This will be my persuasive presentation. I have my phone here, will be used as a clicker throughout the presentation. Okay, so professional athletes are paid multi-million dollars over a set number of years. Fulfilling their childhood dreams. If an athlete stands out or is a standout or is talents are greater than an average athlete, they're rewarded with these large contracts. Multi-year, 3, 4, 5-year deals with upwards of $230 million depending on the sport. There are two avenues that this player can go, or two paths. One is the successful path, where the player exceeds or meets or exceeds the team's expectation. So the player is at the top tier of its class, performing on the field. The second path is where the player doesn't meet the team's expectation, is a average or worse type of player. Therefore, the team is not successful, yet the player is still awarded the amount indicated on the contract. Okay? So we'll go ahead and I have 5 topics that I'll be discussing. The first one would be salary figures, salary control, what the solution is, visualizing the impact of the solution, and then how do we take action. Okay, went ahead of myself. So I'll be displaying some of the salary figures for the top 5 Major League Baseball players, the top 5 NFL players or football players, the top 5 basketball NBA players, and the top 5 hockey players or NHL players. So for the 2018 NBA players, they averaged, the top tier was about $34 million for the year 2018, for the season 2018. Averaged from about 34 million to 29 million. For NHL players or hockey players, they were a little bit less. They're the 4th highest professional sports of the 4 I selected. And they averaged between top tier being about 14 million to the lowest or 5th highest paid player being about 12 million. Moving on to NBA basketball players, and you have the athletes about 34 million for the number 1 player, and the 5th position is about 29 to 30 million. And lastly, you have the NFL football players, and they start off the highest paid about 28 million, and the 5th highest paid player is about $21 million. So the issue, what if a player underperforms? What if their talent doesn't meet the expectation of the team or the fans? There's no accountability. The player still gets paid what's indicated on the contract. So the player gets paid regardless of what his productivity is on the field. So we'll take a look at some salaries for the season of 2017, and I selected Major League Baseball players, of 4 examples of players who underperformed based on their contract. The baseball community uses a formula, it's called WAR formula, to best indicate what the player's value in one statistic versus the contract. And in this example, we'll take a look at the 2017 salary, what their value was for that season based on their productivity, and then the net value overall. So the first individual is Pablo Sandoval. He was paid $17.6 million. His value based on his productivity was only $3.2 million. Net value, negative $14.4 million. I'll say it again, negative $14.4 million. Second example, Andre Ethier, contracted for $17.5 million. His productivity was only $1.6 million. Net value, negative $15.9 million. So you can see there's a trend. Matt Kemp, he was awarded or contracted to be paid $15.75 million. His value for 2017 was $0. Again, was paid $15.75. His value for 2017 was $0. Obviously, his net value is a negative full amount of $15.75. Last, Joe Mauer, contracted for $23 million. His value was a little bit higher than the other 3 examples at $5.6 million. But his net value is the highest of the 4 at a minus $17.6 million. This is troubling, and this should be troubling for you as well, as these players are still getting paid this high amount of money, but has no accountability, regardless of how they perform, especially at this level or below the level as expected, and there's no action to the issue. Now we'll move on to the contract overall rather than showing you examples on a yearly basis. So what they call a player bust, a player who overall doesn't perform as expected. The first example is a baseball player, Chris Davis. He signed a contract for $161 million over 7 years. But by the 3rd year, he was ranked the 4th lowest hitting prospect in baseball. 4th lowest by the 3rd year, but still getting paid the money he signed originally. Next player, Reggie Bush. This one hurts personally because he is a USC alumni. Over 3 years, he was paid $27.5 million. Great athlete, great agility, fast, won championships with USC. However, he only started 27 games over the 3 years, rushed for 500 or less yards per season. Next one is another USC football player. Excellent arm, great quarterback. Was paid $17.6 million for 3 years, but again, didn't perform as expected. Threw for 11 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in only 6 games. He started 6 games. Next, we go to the solution. Let's implement a base pay. Similar to a sales associate or a CEO, establish a base pay. Give them what the base pay is. So for an athlete, they may be $5 million. Just like a sales associate, is base pay may be $1,000 a month, or a CEO may be $6 million a month. But you give them incentives throughout the year. They hit their mark. For sales associates, their job is to sell merchandise. So you give them goals. If they sell 5 items in 1 month, they get specific percentage. If they hit 10 items per month, the higher the tier that they get. So there's productivity, there's accountability. If they don't perform, if they don't sell, they don't get paid. CEOs are responsible for thousands of employees. If he or her employees don't perform, then his bonus or his commission in the end is not as worth as it should be. Let's implement commission, a base pay scale, like a bonus. So if a player exceeds a certain statistics throughout the season, then obviously he gets paid more. Similar to a sales associate. If he's a car salesman, if he sells 10 cars in a month, he gets paid a lot more. If a player exceeds the expectation and outperforms other individuals in the same position, then he should obviously get paid more. This is all based on an annual player evaluation. At the end of the year, let's come up with a formula to determine what the player's actual value is. In some cases it may be high, in some cases it may be low. But for my solution to resolve the issue of overpaying players and underperformance, this is the perfect fit. Now let's visualize the impact of implementing this solution. You get player value, you get increase in productivity. So imagine you give all players similar bonuses or commissions based on their statistics, then you get more players other than the superstars who perform beyond their expectation. So they get paid higher. And eliminate these inflating contracts. Every year you hear the same thing. Record-breaking contract, 6 years, $250 million. Next year it's $300 million over 7 years, and so on. What these inflating contracts also impact us sporting fans, the consumers, is the ticket prices. So imagine these ticket prices take an impact because your team or our team just signed a huge contract, $300 million over 7-8 years. What do you think is going to happen to ticket prices? They increase. An example here, Los Angeles Dodgers, since 2013, start off at $22.37 for the average ticket price. Over the next 5 years, they doubled. Why do you think that is? Because they signed big superstars, huge contracts. They haven't won a World Series yet. Where's the accountability? So let's see the ticket price trend stabilize, and see it decrease. Next one, parking fees, same thing. What if we could stabilize the cost of parking fees or the cost of food prices? Stabilize it or decrease it? The average of a family who would attend, again, I'll go back to Los Angeles Dodgers baseball game, for 4 people, so 4 tickets at an average price, 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas, 2 beers, a hat and parking fee, average about $268.02. Average ticket price. So you're sitting towards the top. Don't you want to get lower to the fields, see the action, get closer to the players? How's that possible if the ticket prices are skyrocketing and the salary contracts are skyrocketing? It's got to be a compromise. So let's take action. How do we take action? Well, first we gotta accountability, player accountability. Let's reach out to the team organizations, to the local newspapers, to the local news station. Let's get the word out. Let's use social media to promote or market our frustration over these large contracts without anything in return. There's no investment, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're all looking for our teams to be better, but at the same time be reasonable. And that's the end of my presentation. I hope that you are on board with me and that together we can make a difference and see some stabilization with these large contracts that are being signed every year in every major sport.